KOCT, its board of directors, staff, and the City of Oceanside do not support nor promote any candidates. We provide the following program as a public service for voters. All candidates have been invited to participate in this program, but not all were able to or chose to do so.
Hello, welcome to KOCT Election 2024 coverage of Oceanside City races. Today we'll be talking to the candidates for the Oceanside City Treasurer. I'm Kent Davey, a KOCT board member, retired newspaper editor and journalist. I'm joined today by fellow board member Amy Forsyth, who is an author, speaker, and veteran Marine combat correspondent. Before I go further, I'd like to thank Veterans Association in North County for hosting this event and allowing us to be here and do this. Amy?
Thanks, Kent. Great to be with you here today, and some important discussions and forums around the local city elections coming up in November. And if you missed this live broadcast, of course, KOCT is going to be sharing more information and more videos on their social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube. So go ahead and like, follow, share, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you can find all the information on KOCT.org. So great to be with you. We're going to kick this off.
Yeah. Amy and I will act as moderators for today's forum and have the honor of talking with incumbent Treasurer Victor Roy, Challenger Phyllis Dominguez, and Challenger Jack Fernandez. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to share an opening statement, beginning first with Mr. Roy, and then following down the table to Jack. Amy and I will engage our candidates for about 50 minutes of question and conversation about the nature of the job, the issues of importance to Oceanside voters. To close, each candidate will be given approximately 2 minutes to close, and that will be that. So let's begin with opening statements. Victor.
Thank you. Hello, Oceanside voters. I'm your city treasurer, Victor Roy, and I'm asking you to please vote to re-elect me because in my next term, I will expand my duties to bring some innovative financial education programs to our schools that will benefit your children and you. I am your most qualified candidate with 6 years of hands-on experience as city treasurer. During my 6 years as the Oceanside City Treasurer, I and my treasury team have wisely saved and invested to grow and build our portfolio from $325 million to today's $550 million. That's a 70%, a huge 70% increase, $225 million. My opponents cannot say that. I have been faithfully working for you, the people. I have been trustworthy and honest as your elected public watchdog. I have provided truthful, independent oversight. As your current Oceanside City Treasurer, I safeguard the city's money and investments, and I will continue to protect your money always. I have comprehensive knowledge and experience with finance, treasuries, bonds, munis, corporates, JPAs that comply with California laws, providing safety, liquidity, and yield for Oceanside, our city. My additional qualifications include that I've been an active member for 6 years with the California Municipal Treasurers Association. I'm an honorary member of the San Diego County Bar Association. I was California Treasury certified by the CMTA in 2019, and I was Investment Foundation certified by CFA in 2019. And I received my MBA, Master of Business Administration, this year.
Thank you very much, Victor. Phyllis.
Hello. So thank you, KOCT and Veterans Association of North County for giving me this opportunity. So my name is Phyllis Dominguez, and I am running for Oceanside City Treasurer in November. So to me, this race is all about trust, and qualifications. Who do you trust to manage the city's funds? Who do you trust to make sure that the city has the money it needs when it needs it? So why am I running? I'm running because Oceanside has over $500 million of our tax money under investment. And we deserve a city treasurer that we can trust, that's more professional and has more experience. So my qualifications. I also have an MBA, which is a Master's of Business. I also have additional education in financial planning, investor relations, and project management. I worked at a Fortune 500 company where I was in the investor relations department, and there I dealt with pension funds, with institutional banks, and other large investors. I also have over 20 years of managing people and projects, often under very challenging situations. And so now I'd really like to bring my education and my experience to bring some more integrity and professionalism to this position. So I am a longtime Oceanside resident. We've lived here over 22 years now. And we chose Oceanside as a place to raise our children. And we consider ourselves Osiders. My children grew up here and they attended schools. I was also a PTA mom who worked with our teachers to ensure our children got quality education. I volunteered in the classroom and on-site council because our children really are our future. So as you can see, I'm very committed to this city, and I have a vested interest in having this city succeed and doing well. So having been here for a while, as you've all seen as well, we've seen many changes. And I just want to say thank you for your consideration. And I do meet the city's new requirements for city treasurer. I am qualified for the position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jack?
Thank you. I'm Jack Fernandez. I was born here in San Diego County, native, actually the son of an immigrant. My dad fled civil war in Angola. He came here speaking no English, and it's a true American dream story I believe that I've lived, and it's an American dream story that I deeply believe in. My mother was disabled with a neurological disability. That inspired me to get involved in biotech while my father worked in a factory to support us under the Coronado Bridge. So I proudly became the first member of my family to go to college. I actually worked local jobs, stocking freezers. I worked on a boat as a deckhand. I actually even sold my blood for an opportunity to be the first in my family to go to college and then to law school at UCLA Law. I did have a scholarship. I proudly passed the bar, and I was on law review. I was also a noted tax law scholar at UCLA School of Law. And then I passed the California Real Estate Broker's License exam, so I also hold a license there as well. I currently serve on the board of San Diego's only national park, the Cabrillo National Monument Foundation. We've proudly sent dozens of young women in Oceanside to the park free of charge for ecological studies. They can work with park rangers. I want to bring transparency to this position of city treasurer. I honestly never had the ambition to run for public office. It's not something I really considered doing. But I believe in Oceanside, just given the scandals that we've had in this treasurer position, it's time that we have someone who has financial experience investing, managing our $500 million fund, as well as ensuring that we're meeting our debt obligations, managing our budget. So I want to be a very transparent resource for Oceanside, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Let's start with this. I'm going to assume, let me do this. Amy, why don't you lead us off?
Well, thank you. You know, any elected position here in Oceanside, of course, requires us to get to know you better. Starting off with your leadership style, your leadership and communication style. Can you please describe your leadership style and what leadership experience you have to bring to the position so people can get to know you better? We'll start with you, Victor. Thank you.
Well, the importance of leadership is having a dedication to public service, and the community, the voters know me from years of being a community activist and leading by example, speaking at city council meetings frequently on issues across the spectrum. advocating for our nurses when they were having problems at Tri-City Hospital, going to the Tri-City Hospital Board, advocating for various causes in the city to help seniors, veterans, disabled, and low-income families during the vacancy decontrol fight that the council brought to us, attacking rent control. So leadership is really a key, and I have an open door policy with my office as the city treasurer.
Okay, thank you. Phyllis?
Hi, thank you. So as far as my leadership style, I'm a very collaborative person. I like to know what other people are thinking so I can take their input and then be informed when I make a decision. One of my prior jobs was I ran a nuclear power plant. I was responsible for the safe operation of 2 nuclear reactors, and I had to lead a team to ensure safe operation, to keep them safe, and to keep the community safe. So when I have to, I will be very directive. But again, I like to take input from all sides because I think everybody has something to contribute. Not one person always has all the same answers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jack?
Thanks. And you're Amy, right?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't had a chance to meet you, but thanks for the question. You've heard of a servant leader, right? My leadership style is lead from the trenches. That's what I've always admired as a young man. Like I said, growing up in my household with some adversities, but there were never adversities we weren't able to overcome. The way that I saw some of my heroes leading in public office, there weren't many, because there just weren't many elected officials who have that style of actually not just doing what they say they're gonna do, but doing the things that they know are the most difficult impediments to achieving the goal that we have. So for me right now, that means going out into Oceanside and introducing myself outside of this forum, making sure people who maybe are not typically engaged in local municipal elections know what's going on, understand who their treasurer was. I would say 85% of the people I talk to on a daily basis, they unfortunately don't know Mr. Roy. They don't know that we have a treasurer, let alone what the treasurer does or can do to make their life better and easier. So in sum, leading by example, leading from the trenches, and also following the lead of our community members.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So following on that idea, I would assume that many voters don't exactly understand or know what it is the city treasurer job entails, what the duties are, what the obvious limitations are according to the city investment policy. So Mr. Roy, could you explain the office for us?
Sure. As city treasurer, it's really important that we're examining the issues of safety, liquidity, and yield. We have to have enough money in our reserves to pay our bills. We operate the city with a balanced budget every year, which is not other cities and counties, and even the state doesn't do that. So we are proactive in maintaining that. And as the treasurer, I also collect the economic data monthly with regards to employment measures, inflation, consumer issues, leading economic indicators, housing, survey-based measures like the Institute of Supply Management, the GDP, the Federal Reserve and rates, and U.S. Treasury note and yields. And in my monthly report, I compile the most pertinent economic data and arrange that and put that in the report that goes to directly the City Council. As part of my duties, I also oversee development services. When the developers come in and have their projects, they have to be cleared that they have paid their taxes before we can sign off on the documents that advance their developments. And then being collaborative within the Financial Services Department. The Treasury is a division of the Financial Services Department. So I'm in collaboration directly with the Financial Services Director, and also I am the ex officio chair for the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee, which is made up of citizens with an interest in finance and have a background in finance, and Our investment policy is run through our Citizen Investment Oversight Committee. We propose changes to that possibly annually if necessary, and the Oversight Committee reviews all of that and either approves or denies approval.
Okay, thank you. Phyllis, can you add to the description what the treasurer does?
Well, the city treasurer also advises the city council. So it's important that the city council trusts the city treasurer and that the city treasurer has credibility with the council. And so many times they've tried to make the city treasurer an appointed position, but the residents of Oceanside have turned them down many times overwhelmingly, because we want the city treasurer to be accountable to the people. We don't want the city treasurer dependent on the city council for direction. We don't want the city treasurer dependent on the city manager. We want the city treasurer who is responsive to the people. But as Victor did say, our main responsibility as city treasurer is to safeguard our finances. And we need to invest with safety. We want to make sure that the city's got the money it needs when it needs it. And then we also need to look at our return on investment. Are we safely invested? Currently, we have an outside management firm, Chandler, doing our investments. And so as city treasurer, it's important that you work with the city the city finance director and oversee what Chandler's doing. Are they managing our policy as per directed? And again, our investment policy is bounded by state government code 53600 with some input from the California Municipal Treasurers Association. So as you know, we do a review periodically, and again, we want to stay with the best practices of that organization. So thank you.
Thank you. Jack, what can you add?
Kent, thank you. And if viewers are still watching, if everyone's still awake, because I know that this is partly the problem with the municipal treasurer race. We talk about, oh, government code XYZ. The average person doesn't know what that is. The average person, Victor, doesn't know or care about muni bonds or about CDs. What they care about is the actual results of the treasurer position, and most importantly, that the treasurer is the citizen's watchdog. So this is something important that Phyllis said that I appreciate her bringing up. We don't have an appointed treasurer in Oceanside. That makes us very special as a municipality, as a city. I believe we're one of only 3 cities in all of San Diego County for 3.3 million people who has an elected treasurer in this role that the people can vote on in a citywide race. It got we re-elected this in 2012 in Oceanside as well. So it's a recent development since this treasurer was established in like 1928 here. That's because the role is to distill these complexities, these idiosyncrasies of investing, which, by the way, Victor or Phyllis, I'm not sure, have either of you before worked at an investment firm, like as an investor?
Can we respond to the question?
Yeah, it's just a simple one.
I'm asking the moderator.
Okay.
Go ahead, very quickly.
And then I'll wrap up.
So I haven't worked for an investment firm.
Okay, that's good
wait,
enough.
Victor, the nature of the city treasurer.
Finish the answer.
Yeah.
You ask a question, please.
It was just a yes or no.
No, it's not, because investing
Yeah.
for an investment company is different from protecting the investments for the city.
I don't disagree. I'm just making the point.
Wait. Victor, would you like to respond to Jack?
Sure. I have not worked for an investment company prior to being elected as city treasurer, but I went through the educational steps and was certified by the Municipal Treasurers Association of the state and have complied ever since. And as a self-directed value investor through my entire lifetime, I am fully committed and familiar
It was a yes or no.
with all of the steps of finance and investing.
And I moderate.
Okay. Because I wanted to finish my point for the viewers. And this is no disrespect to the moderators or to the other candidates, but I'm concerned about the viewers and the actual voters who are watching us and listening. And to them I say, you can just see what happened I asked the very simple, straightforward yes or no question. Have you ever worked for a registered investment advisor? The answer is no to both. I have. I worked in fixed income arbitrage as an investor. Okay. And the point is, as a citizen's watchdog, Kent, you have to distill these complexities simply and effectively so that the average person knows what's going on. So last thing, if elected treasurer, my team and I already have plans to roll out what I think will be the first technological advancement in this position in years. It's going to be a quarterly treasurer update system. You put in your Oceanside zip code online, you're going to be able to quickly and effectively see how spending happened that quarter, to be transparent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The city treasurer has a fiduciary role. So for the voters and the viewers at home, can you explain what that means to them and how your education, experience, and expertise brings that out in you and how you differ from your opponent? Let's start with you, Phyllis, first.
Thank you. So a fiduciary is someone who acts in the best interests of the city. There's been a lot of talk lately about what a fiduciary role does and how important it is. So again, as somebody who's working for the interests of the city, I would be looking for investment opportunities that benefit our city. I would not be looking for ways to enrich myself. That's the difference of a fiduciary. The fiduciary responsibilities are also laid out in our investment policy, and again, to the much maligned code that Jack referred to, 53600. It specifies what the fiduciary responsibilities are for the city treasurer and how they're protected if they're acting in the best interests of the people.
Okay, let's go to Jack next, and then Victor.
So I've also, in my life, I've practiced law, and one of the aspects of my legal practice, that is a mouthful, involved probate, trusts and estates, and understanding what an administrator does to be a fiduciary. It's more than just making sure that the city's, quote, best interests are reflected. You have a financial responsibility to the people who make up the city to protect their finances and make decisions that will most prudently reflect in returns on that money. So yeah, I agree with Phyllis, no self-enrichment. It goes a step or two beyond that. So.
Great. Thank you. And Victor, to close out that question.
Sure, thank you for the question. As the fiduciary, I am responsible for acting and advocating for the best interests of my client. In this case, as the city treasurer, that is the City of Oceanside. And I stand on my record of 6 years of public service being the city treasurer and having the actual investment portfolio increased from $325 million to the present day $550 million. My opponents cannot say that. I have been responsible as a fiduciary for 6 solid years with excellent performance.
Let me ask a take on that generalized question. If I understand correct, day-to-day financial transactions and control of the city's approximately $500 million set of assets is handled by Chandler Asset Management. What does that mean vis-a-vis the city treasurer's office? Does the treasurer direct Chandler? Does Chandler propose that we are going to distribute our assets in the following, according to the code or the policy? Can you explain that, Jack?
I think the best person to ask this question would be Victor, and I don't think it's been as straightforward as what he may have said, that he's had a 6-year tenure that has been totally financially transparent. And I'll leave that to the viewers at home to Google in their spare time if they want to. As I understand it, the apportionment of risk, and this is really important for voters to know, is something that is determined through basically a directive from the city council with input from the treasurer. The treasurer role is then to direct Chandler, for instance, to allocate that risk appropriately, to balance risk versus return. And that might mean saying, more potentially municipal bonds or more investment in a CD or something that Victor answered beforehand. And if I get elected, that is largely going to be based on the future of Oceanside. I believe that in order to be a good treasurer, it's not enough to look at the year to year and say, well, how do we do this quarter? How are we doing next quarter? We have to plan out for a 5 and a 10-year future, because God forbid we leave unapportioned debts to our children and our grandchildren. It's the future generations who are really going to not benefit if we don't manage this prudently.
Victor, can you explain how your office and Chandler interact that way?
Right. When I was first elected, we had an actual in-house treasury manager. And with the treasury division, we had 7 approved broker-dealers that would pitch to us the pool of investments that were possible that complied with California government code. And we selected from that pool what we were investing in, and it was a balanced approach. But back then, 6 years ago, we had a 0 interest rate environment. The market was very different than it is today. In the meantime, the treasury manager position was eliminated, and we hired Chandler Asset Management. So they're doing the same thing. They have their pool of broker-dealers that they handle, checking the credit ratings of the investable securities and making those decisions, and collaborating with me to make sure that the portfolio is balanced over a 5-year period, because our investing horizon is up to 5 years with all of the different securities. And right now, our portfolio is divided into about 1/3 treasuries, because the market rates for the treasuries are yielding very high interest rates, and we're taking advantage of that. And we're about 1/4 invested in corporates, which is a policy change that I was able to activate back in 2020 with the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee, when we realized we were handcuffed with only AAA rated securities. But we opened it up. We asked them, open it up for us so we could do AA and single A. We started piling in the corporates up to 15% of the portfolio, just ahead of COVID and the whole market conditions changing. And the pandemic changed everything. So.
Okay. Phil.
So I'd just like to comment on the relationship between Chandler and the city treasurer. So because of a lot of flux and controversies in the treasurer's department over the last few years, the city removed some of the responsibilities from the city treasurer and reallocated them to the financial services director. So the city treasurer works with the financial services director to direct Chandler to invest as appropriate per our policy. And yes, to manage our risk, our market risk and impact of interest rates, we do fairly short maturity bonds. They're less than 5 years. We ensure that we've got 6 months liquidity to pay our city's bills. And we try to maintain close relationship to what we chose as our benchmark, because we want to make sure that we're, again, not liable or not subject to interest rate risk.
Okay, so shifting gears just a little bit and talking about relationships, communication, and again, leadership and working with the staff or other folks. The city's financial services director is Jill Moya. Can you describe your working relationship with Ms. Moya? And for the challengers here, do you know Jill Moya, and do you have any concerns working with Moya? Let's start with you, Victor.
Sure. Since I have been the elected city treasurer, we have had 2 financial service directors. The current one is Ms. Moya, and we collaborate on the investment policy annually to make sure that we are staying in compliance with state law, government code for California, as well as looking at changes that will help us advance our investments and produce better results in the investment portfolio. So we look at that. We also collaborate on the audit that the city goes through and on the day-to-day basis of what is happening with Chandler Asset Management, that company, and how they are rebalancing our portfolio with the ever-changing market conditions, but as the market is, as it is proceeding today with the higher interest rates. So we have proactively been doing that, and it's a very good working relationship.
Okay, thank you. And Phyllis?
Okay, so I've met Jill Moya. I've attended many of the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee meetings, and Jill has always been very professional in her interactions with Chandler and with the rest of the committee. She keeps the meeting on board. She makes sure that the Brown Act is followed, and she ensures that the relevant agenda items are covered. So again, I've also attended city council meetings which the city treasurer doesn't often attend, and Jill Moya has been there to report out on the financial status of the city, and again has always been incredibly professional and responsive to the concerns of our citizens and of the city council.
And okay, thank you. Jack?
I absolutely know that I could work alongside Ms. Moya. I know this because I already have a great team of support. I'm out there in the community, knowing the role of the treasurer, which is to be the community watchdog, a citizen's representative, always having your best foot forward, and making sure that you're building new relationships. Many of Ms. Moya's colleagues adjacently have actually endorsed me for treasurer already. And I think that's a reflection on what I'm doing, which is not about me. It's about Oceanside. It's about our community. So I want to say quickly, if we get a watchdog in this role, like I said earlier, it has to be transparent. I'm the only candidate right now even not speaking off of notes, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that's because I understand we have to provide transparency to the voters at home, and if you want to be an ambassador to forge public-private partnerships, which is something the treasurer can do that has not been done, you have to be ready to go out and with creative ideas and a collaborative mindset and approach. And I'll wrap up, so I know you're giving me the wave here. Yeah.
Thank you all. Okay.
Let me follow on that. The language of the policy, if I understand correctly, is the treasurer in consultation with the financial director communicates with Chandler. Given that, that's almost, is there a, does that imply the treasurer and the financial director have to be in agreement if they are giving an instruction to Chandler, or does it imply something else? I'm not sure I understand. There's a certain vagueness, I think, to that language, and I don't know that I understand it. Do you, Phyllis?
So it goes back to the collaboration issues. You asked how well we work with others, what's our leadership style. But as the policy states, it is in collaboration. And so yes, we need to come to a different agreement. My background is more in financial planning and investor relations. Her background's in accounting. So we bring different skills and experience to this decision making. And so it's not that we're fighting each other, it's we're working together to make sure that we get the best product for our citizens.
Okay. Jack?
Will you ask me the specific question? Is your, yeah.
The specific question that I have in my mind, when the policy says the financial services director in consultation with the city treasurer will be responsible for all transactions. Mm-hmm. Chandler handles all the day-to-day, so does that imply that the treasurer and the financial director must agree, or does one hold more sway than the other? I don't know.
No, and you know, Ken, I think that's a great question. I think whenever there's something ambiguous like that, that is on the treasurer, for instance, if it applies to them, to go forth to city council or to citizen investment oversight meetings and ultimately seek some kind of formal clarity. Because I would agree with you that when it says in consult with, where does the buck stop? I want to make sure that basically the buck never gets passed to the taxpayers. So for me personally, if I'm the elected treasurer, if it says in consult with, we know who I'm going to be representing, and it's the voters and it's our community members first and foremost. So,
Victor, can you illuminate me? Because I don't understand.
Thank you for the question, Kent. So the importance is, I'm acting as the fiduciary in the best interest of the city. I do need an agreement with the financial services director if we want to move the policy or change the policy before we go to the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee for review and approval or denial of change. But overall, we work harmoniously together, and she's acting as the accountant and directing the financial services. She is mainly in charge of the city budget, the $200+ million budget, and the treasurer's office is in charge of the $550 million investment portfolio. So we have to work together, and in order to proceed, go to the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee for any changes to the investment policy. Now, when we brought in Chandler decided that the investment policy needed a complete revamping, and they brought in a number of changes that we proposed to the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee. I warned the committee and I said, you can agree to all of this, or you can agree to part of it. Whether you want to be liberal or conservative, that is your decision. And they agreed for all of it, and that was because with the changing market conditions, Chandler wanted to have full flexibility, not that they were going to exercise maximum investments in any particular category. So we're all in agreement. Ms. Moya was in agreement, I was in agreement, and the Citizen Investment Oversight Committee was in agreement. And that change passed at the end of last year.
Shifting gears just slightly here, since city pensioners are included in the CalPERS system, and the system has a significant unfunded liabilities, July 2024 news release from the agency indicates that the status is a 75% funded, only 75% funded. Do you know what the city's unfunded status is? Does the city treasurer have a role in advising the finance director and city council on strategies to meet this challenge? Victor, we'll start with you on this, but I'd like to hear from all three candidates.
So the answer, thank you for the question, Amy. The answer to that question is the city treasurer and the treasurer division is not part and parcel of the PERS. That is completely overseen and directed by the financial services director. And she has stated that, whether it was McPherson, the prior financial services director, coming to the council and speaking on that issue, as well as Ms. Moya.
Okay, well, and Phyllis, just your thoughts on how you would mitigate any unfunded liabilities if you were elected treasurer.
Okay, as the city treasurer, I would work with Ms. Moya to understand why we've got 25% unfunded, and work with Chandler to say, okay, are there opportunities to close this gap? And again, the city treasurer works to oversee the investments. We want to see our investments grow. As our investments grow, we have more cash available. We can advise the city council, okay, we're doing very well on our investments. We've got some money, let's put more money. I suggest that we put more money towards the CalPERS pension fund. And it's up to the city council to agree to that change. But again, the city treasurer works on ensuring that the city has the money it needs. We need to make sure that Jill Moya has the money that she needs to pay our obligations and to close this gap.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you. So what I just heard is make sure that so-and-so has the money that they need to pay this non-paid portion, like you mentioned, of our city's obligations and debt. I can tell you where it's not going to come from if I get elected, if I were to have a say in it, and that's from the taxpayers. And I know I keep saying this, but it's because, as you know, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, Measure X is coming up again, this extension on the ballot. And I just constantly hear from our elected officials, some of them, we have such and such unfunded area, or we need to reallocate more money for spending here. To me, it often sounds like passing the buck on to the taxpayers. And sales tax, for instance, is inherently regressive. What I mean by that is it disproportionately hurts the people in our community who need the most help, people who have the lowest income, people like my father who are honest blue-collar workers. So I just want to make sure that whatever our solution is to ensure that our liabilities and debts are met, it's not let's just raise more money from the people who live here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about Measure X.
Well, let me ask the question first. There was a comment earlier that a quarter of the city's investments were in corporate bonds, a third in treasuries.
Right.
Phyllis, do you know where the rest of that money is invested, particularly in light of the fact that there is a fair amount of, in the equity market, of volatility right now going on? Do you have a sense of how that city's assets are distributed?
Well, first of all, the city is not in equities. We're in bonds. The majority of our bonds are in treasuries, which have the full faith and backing of the US government, so they're incredibly safe. We are also in municipal bonds, which again are very safe. The rest of the money is allocated in asset-backed securities. Excuse me, say this again. Sorry. Yeah, so we're in treasury bills, we're in corporate bonds, we're in a lot of pooled investments with the state. And again, we have to pay attention to what's the ratings of these different things. Our policy states that, no, we won't be more than 30% in this sector, we won't be more than 30% in this sector. All our bonds have to be shorter term, 5 years or less, because that lessens our risk as far as interest rate changes. And so we, I forgot where I'm going. So again, we're well distributed. And so we don't have a lot of risk in any one category.
Okay. Jack?
Yeah, I just want to point out that Mr. Roy did mention proudly that he pushed for a change in our investment policy for, what was it, Mr. Roy? Was it corporate bonds dropping from AAA mandated to now AA and single?
Correct.
Right, so for the viewers at home, what that means is taking more risk with your money, buying companies' debt that has a higher likelihood of default. We need someone who actually has some financial wherewithal and investment savvy to understand the nuances of this massive role. And I'm sorry, it's just not the role to learn on the job.
Can you explain how the portfolio is distributed?
Well, the portfolio distribution is based upon current market conditions. And the market has shifted considerably in the 6 years that I've been there, because we started 6 years ago with a zero interest rate environment, and then we had the pandemic, and now we're in, and then the interest rates got raised. Let's see, we've had 11 rate hikes by the Fed with 9 pauses, and so we're at the highest interest rates that we've experienced by the Fed in like 40 years. So because of that, the portfolio has shifted more into treasuries. The corporates have been there to be built upon. And then we also have the portfolio invested into agencies, as well as the asset-backed securities, munis, and the local government investment pools. Now I can tell you that last year when I went to the California Municipal Treasurers Conference, I learned that The CAMP program, which is the California Asset Management Program, similar to LAIF, the city had $45 million in our LAIF fund, but it was paying 2% less than CAMP. And CAMP is a JPA like LAIF, and we are entitled by California code to invest in CAMP. So I came back, collaborated with Ms. Moya, and said, we immediately need to shift our investment and move the 45 million, so let's take 44 million and put that into CAMP, or divide it in half and put it into a money market, which is paying close to what CAMP is. We're making 2% more, which earned the city $1 million extra in passive income in the 12 months since we've been doing that.
Let me interrupt and ask about the last 12 months or the last year.
Yes.
What is the city's total portfolio performance done in the last 12 months?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We have the current report that's going to the council in September, and the portfolio from a year ago was yielding 2.37%, and we're now up to 3.3%. So we are making very good progress in strengthening our portfolio and the yields based upon the high interest rate market that we're in right now.
Phyllis?
I was just going to say that I also frequently look at what Chandler puts out and the information available to the citizens. And so portfolio summary is talking about, as the end of June of 2024, our purchase yield was, our average market yield was 4.91, which beat our benchmark. And so we are doing well in our portfolio. So when Jack talks about, okay, we're taking more risk, well, with any investment, bonds included, there's risk in everything, but you still have to get a return on your investment. So as long as the majority is on very safe investments like T-bills and municipals, then we can put a little bit of our money in our asset-backed securities to just balance that out and get better return. So we can prevent having to raise taxes, so we can fund what the city needs to fund.
I would love to speak to Phyllis about risk and returns. I mean, that's probably I think, and Mr. Roy as well, that'd be the most fun conversation we could probably have. But just to distill it down to people at home, again, it is important to hear these numbers, but it's really important to understand what that equates to. So when you have $500 million potentially, if you're doing 4.5%, I mean, let's do the math. That's almost 25 million a year potentially if you were to get up a little bit higher in returns a year. And what can you do with that? So here's a novel idea, because I know I'm pointing out a lot of issues we have, but here's kind of an idea that I hope someone steals from me. So what if we were to try something novel in Oceanside that could potentially give us a safe alternative to some of these investments that would also help some of the most integral members of our community? And so my idea that I've been talking to with law enforcement and fire is, what if we were to potentially invest in our first responders by proposing a subsidy of down payment loans for their first homes? How can we recruit and retain better talent in our police force and in our fire? Because we're losing them to just north of San Diego, we're losing them to other parts of the state. This is a lower risk idea that also helps our community, because with interest rates going higher, as Mr. Roy says, what if you're able to propose a safer alternative to someone that's below prime, below 7%? They come and live here in Oceanside like us. It benefits the community. It allows them to build their life. Potentially, it's a very low risk of default. Just food for thought. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As we wrap up and move towards our closing remarks, what's the one topic or issue, we've talked about a lot, but what's the one thing that we haven't talked about today that you would like the viewers and the voters at home to know about you, your leadership style, your experience, your expertise, that we haven't touched on today. So in briefly summarizing, what's the one thing that you would like people to know? What's the topic that people should know about you? Start with you, Victor.
Thank you for the question. First and foremost, the voters of Oceanside know that I'm in it for the right reason. I'm elected as the city treasurer. I am not using the office to run for a higher office. I'm retired. I've come out of retirement. I have a deep respect for public service. I'm excited. We're building for the future now. I'm leading the way with the Treasury Division. I have on-the-job experience of 6 years, and with proven performance, we've been growing our assets. I genuinely care about our city and about all of our people. A long-time record of community service and involvement is my background. People know me across the spectrum in the city in all aspects of our community. And I'm there achieving the top results that the voters put me in the office to do. So I thank you, everyone, for your votes and the confidence in me being your city treasurer.
Phyllis, I think Amy was asking for an issue that hadn't been talked about. Do you have one?
Oh, hasn't been talked about. Gosh, you guys covered quite a bit. So I would just like people to know that I am very committed to this city. I go to a lot of the council meetings. I go to a lot of the city events, and I talk to the residents of Oceanside because I want to know what's going on, what's in your mind. What do you want from your city treasurer? Because as Jack said, a lot of people don't know what the city treasurer does. So I need to go out, and I have been going out into the public and explaining this is why it's important to know who your city treasurer is. That's why it's important to keep filling out your ballot, get to the very bottom, and pick who you want to be your city treasurer. The city treasurer should be of the community. It should know what the issues are before the community. And we should also have the qualifications to do that.
Jack, same idea.
I really hope that people know that I'm a team maker, I'm not a team breaker. And what I mean by that is that if I have the opportunity and privilege to serve as treasurer, I plan to reach out to Phyllis and tell her, look, I'm really glad you ran for this, and I hope you'll join me in some kind of a role so that we can continue to build our coalition. We need people to get more involved, not just in local politics, but in our local Oceanside government. And in my opinion, this election for treasurer, generally, I don't think would be as big of a deal if the treasurer were doing their duties as assigned. As we know, there have been many scandals. We need integrity, transparency, and professionalism in this role for Oceanside.
Thank you. We are at the end of this forum, and I would like you to all close. I think we're going to start with Jack and come down the table, several minutes, 2 minutes or so.
Absolutely, thank you. So I just want to say again, I'm Jack Fernandez. I am an Oceanside local, and you may see me in your community knocking on your door and asking you to get involved with us. I invite you all at home to join. Please visit jack4oceanside.com to see how we're making a difference that's going to last far beyond this election in November. For a lot of people, it's going to end there. I want to defend the Oceanside dream. It's a variation of the San Diego dream, of course, the American dream that I've lived, that my father, an immigrant who fled a civil war, lived as a factory worker under the Coronado Bridge. And for us in Oceanside, we know we thrive on certain aspects of the economy that are so unique. We have our military presence at Pendleton. We have the tourism industry that is thriving but could be doing so much better. And of course, we have agriculture, which is seasonal. These are lucrative areas that I see limitless potential for our city. Please consider voting for me on November 5th, Jack Fernandez. I will be the first name on your ballot, and a vote for me is a vote for transparency, respect for office, and professionalism, and possibly, most importantly, it's a vote for the future of our children in Oceanside and a future for you in Oceanside that I believe in. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis.
Hi, thank you. So we can all agree the qualifications are important. And we really need a city treasurer who will protect our investments, but also be a part of this community. So our investment policy demands that the city treasurer acts with the utmost professionalism to gain and maintain the public trust. So unfortunately, this isn't always the case. Our current treasurer has, our current treasurer has cost the city significant amount of our tax dollars due to investigations and has lost this trust.
That's a lie.
No. Let her finish.
I'm sorry.
All of you, Phyllis is talking with her closed. You'll get your chance, Victor.
I'm sorry, it is public record that a significant amount of money of our tax dollars were spent on investigations of inappropriate behavior. But I would really like to get past that and restore this trust and bring integrity back to the office. I was also a little concerned about some of the things that Jack was saying. His novel approach to investing in our city responders is really good. But I'm not sure if he knows that our firefighters and our police are represented employees, and as such, they need to bargain this. And it would also add to their compensation and may impact their tax burden. So I've also looked at Jack's handout materials, and he says he's gonna cut taxes.
I never said that. Prove it. That's an inaccurate characterization.
Just hang on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, manage the city debt and
I didn't say that either. So I can produce the materials. They're in my car. You want to grab them?
I've got a, sorry.
Just continue on.
Yeah.
Just let Phyllis finish.
So anyway,
I can't be
I'm
slandered
sorry,
on
so
TV.
I have to wonder what position Jack is really running for.
Oceanside Treasurer.
Thank you,
Thank
Phyllis.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
you've
I'll be the
used up
first
most
name
of
on
my
your
time.
ballot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In closing, I have lived in Oceanside for 26 years and supported numerous organizations, events, and charities to benefit the greater Oceanside community, including that I'm a founding member of the Oceanside Charitable Foundation. I'm a past president of the Friends of Oceanside Parks and Recreation. I'm a past vice president of the Friends of the Oceanside Public Library. Oceanside voters, you know me as a community activist who valiantly fought and won the grassroots vacancy decontrol battle in 2011 and 12 to protect rent control for our 6,000 seniors, veterans, disabled, and low-income families who live in our mobile home parks. You know that in 2020, I rallied voters across Oceanside to vote no on Measure K. That asked the voters to give the power to the City Council to appoint the city clerk and the city treasurer. 85% of you, the voters, loudly stated no, do not take away our voting power. In 2020, I helped to get the first woman mayor elected. You know that in 2021, I reported to city leadership that an employee misused taxpayer money to pay for their personal vacation instead of attending a special conference that they were supposed to attend along with me. You know that in 2022, I stood up and fought back against an employee who turned into a bully and liar. That person no longer works for the city. My opponents have done nothing like any of this in our city of Oceanside. And Oceanside, we operate on a balanced budget and we spend within our means every year, unlike some cities, counties, and even the state. Voters, do not be distracted by nonsense and lies that may come from my opponents. Remember, focus on the money and the $225 million increase that I and my Treasury team have produced for you and our city over the last 6 years. Hold on, yo hablo y yo entiendo español. Vote yes to re-elect Victor Roy for Oceanside City Treasurer. Thank you all. Gracias a todos, and God bless. Your vote is important.
We are unfortunately out of time. I wish we had another 15 or 20 minutes, but since we don't, I'd like to thank the Veterans Association of North County for hosting, allowing us to do this broadcast from here. We'd like to thank each of our treasurer candidates for appearing and expressing your points of view. Amy.
Thank you, Kent. For those that missed this at home, it'll be rebroadcast on koct.org on the election page, but of course, bits and pieces and the full episode can be seen on the YouTube channel. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, join the conversation, continue the conversation about our elections coming up here in Oceanside. So thanks for our candidates, and Kent, great to be with you today.
Good to be with you, Amy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
KOCT, its board of directors, staff, and the City of Oceanside do not support nor promote any candidates. We provide the following program as a public service for voters. All candidates have been invited to participate in this program, but not all were able to or chose to do so.
You're watching KOCT Television in Oceanside.